Hello, my name is Ben.
And I'm Norah.
And we are your hosts of the Too Vague podcast. One word, two hosts, stories, trivia, and video games. I'm trying something new here.
It's good.
It's very descriptive.
It's perfect.
Excellent. My one listener approves. And the word this week is rating.
Rating, yes.
First things first, Norah, how are you doing today, and what have you been into? What have you been into?
I'm drugs.
Oh, boy.
I've been pretty good. The weather in Chicago is Midwestern weather. It was real hot last week, and it's been real cold and rainy this week.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be up to 78 again tomorrow. That, and Anna and I went to a musical last night. Now, normally we see smaller venue plays that are more serious or something like that. But this was at one of the big Broadway type theaters downtown.
Okay.
It was really great. It's been so long since I've been there. And it's Alanis Morissette's Little Jagged Pill. They made a musical.
Okay.
They used her music. She did not write the musical, but she had things to say, about it. And they used a lot of her music and made a story around it. And it wasn't like a comedy, even though there were funny parts. It was about a mother getting hooked on opiates.
Gotcha.
And a bisexual adopted black daughter in a Connecticut white neighborhood, which she didn't feel like she belonged.
And it says it's based on a book?
Oh, somebody may have written a book. I don't know. But then they had to, if they did that, then they had to incorporate Alanis Morissette's music.
Little Jagged Pill, the musical.
It was good. It was really good.
It says it is a book by Diablo Cody. So that's on the Little Jagged Pill, the musical website.
It's on, I remember that from the playbill. I even thought about it closes Saturday. It's only here for like a week.
Right.
And I even thought about going again Saturday, just by myself.
Wow. It was that good, huh?
Yeah, I really liked it. But I like Alanis Morissette music.
Yeah.
Even though it was a little more robust than she usually sings it.
Right.
Some of them were.
I find her music Lilith Fair.
Yeah, which I like, by the way.
Get it? Lilith Fair?
No, I don't get it.
Fair. I'm rating her music as fair.
Oh, okay. Rating. Okay, well, you certainly have your opinion there, subjective opinion.
It also reminds me of my joke, very similar to this Alanis Morissette joke. Whenever we have the state fair here in Arizona, people always say they're going to the fair. And I said, oh, what did you think about it? And then they tell me about the fair, and then I go, I heard it's okay. You don't?
You're right. It's like, so that's supposed to be like it was fair?
Yes.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Midland. Yeah.
Maybe that's on my own target audience because I find that hilarious and no one else gets it.
That's definitely.
Well, I don't know if I should tell you about what I'm doing, but it doesn't sound like you're interested in what I'm doing. So let's just go on to the word.
Well, no. Okay. What are you doing?
What am I doing?
Yeah.
Well, funny you ask.
I'm laughing because you said it was funny.
No, it's hilarious. I want to start this by saying on last week's episode on the word heel, we talked about one of my favorite music video directors and movie directors, Michel Gondry, who I call Michael Gondry. I've called him Michael Gondry my entire life. The entire...
Oh, one of those. Okay.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys. So I refer to him for the entire show as Michael Gondry, but his name is actually Michel. I put in the show notes. I apologize for harm or any ill will that I've generated towards him and his family based on my ignorance.
If you really like his stuff.
Oh, I do. I do.
That should make up for it.
Okay.
The mispronunciation.
I tagged him on Instagram. He still hasn't responded, but whatever. So anyway,
no.
We talked about this movie called Be Kind, Rewind. And because of my guilt, I purchased that on Blu-ray. So I made a purchase, so maybe I could contribute to his, I don't know, kids' college fund
funds,
or whatever.
Right.
Of the $15, I don't know how much that he's going to see.
Probably a quarter. I mean, 25 cents.
If that, a fraction. Yeah. Have you seen Be Kind, Rewind?
No, I'm not a movie person.
No, I know.
Even though there's things I want to see.
I think you've seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I mean, have you seen that?
I don't know.
Okay. It is probably one of Michel Gondry's more well-known movies.
It sounds really familiar, like I may have seen it at some time with brothers or husbands.
We talked about it on the last show a little bit. It's one that Amaya brings up. Be Kind, Rewind, he has amazing premises for his videos. I am just fascinated. I have a whole DVD of all of his videos because that's how he started out, and then he got into directing after that. And Be Kind, Rewind has one of the best premises, but it is a premise out of time. It's a video store in a sort of a rundown neighborhood. They are competing against the big time video store across the street who has everything on DVDs. They still have everything on VHS tapes.
Of course.
Something happens where one of the friends of the guy who's watching the video store for his boss as he's on a business trip, something happens and he becomes totally magnetized. And he walks into the video store and demagnetizes all of the tapes.
Yeah, right.
So what they end up doing, so he doesn't get in trouble, is they film replacement versions of all the...
That sounds good.
They refer to them as Sweded versions.
Sweet?
Yeah, like they're a Swedish shortening version of the film. They were on the spot and they tried to come up with something quickly. It's like, oh, no, they're the Sweded version of whatever. So that's why it's like 20 minutes instead of 2 hours. It shows them making these videos, and it's just that's what Michel Gondry excels at, is coming up with these really interesting concepts. And what's really cool is some of the things that he does in his videos early on, while they're filming in the actual movie, he uses some of the things that he would do in his videos, right? Kind of a throwback, creative ways to film things. It's really an interesting movie, very funny.
Yeah.
I think I could do it better. Maybe that's not the thing I should say if I wanted to impress Michel Gondry.
Probably not.
No, probably not. I think it could be more impactful. Someone needs to remake that movie, I think, but you can't do that because what are you going to demagnetize?
Oh, yeah, right.
I'm workshopping a period piece maybe that approaches the characters a little differently than he did, but I made that purchase because I was feeling guilty, and that's why I've been watching that movie. I think you might appreciate it. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Danny Glover's in it.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Jack Black is in it.
Oh, I love Jack Black.
Mos Def.
I don't know Mos Def.
Rapper. So anyway, I thought it was a really fun movie. Very interesting concept. Really kind of crazy.
I'm sure on my many streaming channels, I'll be able to find it.
Yeah, you should be able to find it. I think that is a good enough way I could say what the rating is if I had it near me.
I was going to ask about that.
I can't see it being any more than PG-13.
Yeah, it sounds, there's probably language.
Yeah, possibly.
That's it. But that's it. They still have that with PG-13. It depends on how bad it is.
Right. The word is rating this week.
Rating.
And we'll start with a definition, and then we can get into the conversation about breaking down how arbitrary I don't want to plant any seeds, but what ratings mean and now and what their purpose is and different types of rating systems.
Right.
We'll get to that. But the word rating, according to your friend and mine, Oxford.
Mr. Ford?
Yes. Right. Languages. I think Languages is his maiden name, maybe her maiden name.
Oh.
Oxford Languages.
Their maiden name.
That's true. Their maiden name. I think the noun and verb, very similar, but I'll do both. Rating is a classification or ranking of someone or something based on a comprehensive assessment of their quality, standard, or performance.
Yes.
The estimated audience size of a particular television or radio program. The value of a property or condition that is claimed to be standard, optimal, or limiting for a substance, material, or item of equipment.
Oh, not what pops into my mind.
Yeah. They always throw in one that makes my eyebrow raise, and that's this one, which is any of the classes into which racing yachts are assigned according to dimensions. It's like, really?
Oh my.
You got these vague, and then just very, very specific yachts.
Specific, yeah.
Okay.
They're
Ford. Oxford does it. Ford, yes. Oxford does it again. And here's one that I didn't even think of. It didn't even cross my mind while I was thinking of what this word means. It's kind of a dated noun, but an angry reprimand is a rating.
Oh.
When I look at that definition, I think B-rating. You're B-rating someone.
Yeah, right. Berating,
but I mean, I guess rating is part of the origin of B-rating.
Right.
And then also the verb rate. These are all verbifications. I think we don't have to go over these because these are just, is verbification.
What's a funny word?
Yeah. Making things into a verb, but it's the same. Considered to be of a certain quality, standard, rank.
Right.
To be worthy of merit, to be regarded in a specific way, assign a standard or value to something according to a particular scale. So these are all you can pair them up.
Right.
And then also they've got the same thing, verb archaic, to scold someone. Another one they have here is ret, which is the gerund or present participle of rating, to soak in water or soften and separate the fibers. I don't know where that fits in.
I don't either.
Use over time for rating. It reached its peak in the early 40s, which I guess would make sense when we're going to be talking about the various systems of measure and moral standard stuff that was going on about artistic expression around that time.
Now, see, here's the thing. Why are you talking about movies?
Uh-huh.
Because there's other things that get rated.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Specifically in reference to movies, but ever since 1940 is when it sort of, it began its climb in the 1900s and then sort of reaches its peak on this graph in 1940. And then from that point forward, it stays about at the same level from the 1940s all the way on.
That Google site that I don't remember that tells you about.
Right. I am looking at the Ngram viewer.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The noun and the verb are probably the same for the origin. Late Middle English expressing a notion of estimated value from the Old French, from medieval Latin, rata, rata.
Yeah, rata.
From Latin pro rata parte, according to the proportional share, and from ratus, reckoned, past participle of rari. You know what? I didn't take Latin. Did you take Latin?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay.
Couple years in high school. It's the basis of a lot of languages.
Right.
All the Romance languages and English, even though English also has a lot of Germanic type things in it too.
Right. E pluribus unum.
Yeah.
What is that?
Oh, Jesus. For many, one for many, or for many, no, for, I don't know, I forgot. Unum is one, pluribus is whatever that is. Many.
I'm just going to look it up in the Google machine.
Okay.
Out of many, one.
Out of many, okay. Okay.
Yeah, so I guess one out of many, one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Out of many, comma, one.
All right.
So that's e pluribus unum.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about e pluribus unum.
You were just testing me.
I was. I'm sorry. I didn't do it subtly enough. You're supposed to not think I was testing you. But I didn't do that intentionally as a mechanism for testing you. It just popped into my head. Whenever I say Latin, that's what pops into my head.
Yeah, that's one of the Yeah.
Any disagreement? Any new sort of definitions that didn't get covered in that by Mr. or Mrs. Oxford?
I think the world of definitions of rating got covered.
Okay.
I think there's way too much in that. I think it should be simplified. I don't know. I just think it should be simplified.
You mean
the very first definition you gave for the noun?
Right.
That was it. That's it.
Yeah.
So they happen to have yachts that are 70 feet, and they have to say, okay, this one's 70 feet, this one's 60 feet. 60 is going to be the B.
Right.
We're going to call that one B in our rating, and 70 is going to be A. Why don't you just call them 60 and 70?
Right.
I'm sorry, it was just too much information.
Right. I'm not a yachter. I'm not a yachter.
Yeah.
My yachtism, yachtist. I really don't have the money to own a yacht.
Yeah.
So I don't really care what the classification that is or the rating.
Well, I don't see why they need it.
Well, I mean, that's the thing.
I don't think they need it.
I'm sure that there are maybe airplanes, right? You've got your types of airplanes that Boeing makes, and then you've got numbers after those things. It's like DC-9, DC-10. Maybe those are rankings or ratings that they are sort of arbitrarily assigning to put them into different classifications. I mean, I don't know if that's similar to the yachts.
I never thought that, but...
Well, I mean,
Okay.
How did you come up with the AB, or whatever for yachts, right?
It still fits with the first definition.
It all does, yeah.
So why confuse the issue? And I'm talking to the dictionary, not you.
Okay.
So in the very first definition, you talked about all the reasons that something could be rated.
Mm-hmm.
That's great, except who's doing the rating and who's deciding what's important.
Right.
Who's deciding what the highest quality of something would be.
Yeah. And what is quality? It's very subjective.
Exactly.
Right.
Rating is subjective, but I still think there's a place for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's odd because I'm like banning books. Now, come on. That's ridiculous.
Ban them? Why ban them when you can burn them?
Oh, you're true. Hey, let's get into some family history, buddy.
Yeah, let's do it. Anyway.
No, it happened in our family.
Yeah. Personally, we burned a lot of books.
No.
I know.
Grandpa's. Yeah.
We'll go.
But anyway,
we can go down that rabbit hole later, but that is a way to control people is control what they read and what they view.
What they know.
Right.
Yeah.
However, isn't that what rating does?
Yeah.
I mean, that is exactly what it does, but not in a way where you're eliminating it entirely.
Rating is still suggestion, I think, for the most part.
But do people take it that way? I mean,
Well, it depends.
I'm not going to take my kid to this PG-13 movie without seeing it first, or saying that you can't see this because it's rated R, but I haven't seen it first, and I haven't made my own assessment as to why, as a parent, I would not take my impressionable young cats. Why would I take my 6-year-old cat to this movie? Bash could totally go. He's 19. He's not even worrying about it 18. Anymore. I understand that it is a device to classify things in a easily digestible sort of way. It's a system of classification.
Yeah, and it is supposed to be helpful.
I mean, in the case of movies and video games and things like that, right?
Right.
But you can see where it can be used in a way to censor.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Which I'm very, very much against.
Yeah.
But you can't let everybody just go hog wild, kind of. There needs to be something where you're not hurting anybody else in any way.
Yeah.
A moral kind of thing.
Yeah, but that's
not amoral.
And I understand that, but that is telling me what I can and cannot eat and read and do and buy, and in maybe in a subtle way and maybe a not so subtle way. So that's why I have a problem. I mean, a little bit. I understand what it's for. I understand it's supposed to be for good. It's supposed to give you a guideline if you don't have the time to watch everything your kids watch or read.
I'll give you a general idea.
Yeah. I understand that part of it, but it just seems to me also, it's like you're oversimplifying the whole thing.
I am?
Well, no, not you personally. I mean, just the whole mechanism is oversimplifying and not accurate.
Yes.
But and what is accuracy when it comes to ratings, right?
Right. It's also subjective.
And many of the sites or articles I've read about the subject of ratings has revolved around how it changes depending on social norms and how that can affect the way something was rated previously and is rated now. We'll get into that maybe a little bit more when we talk about ratings in the ESRB. What is your thought on that kind of thing with regard to, just the nature of rating being somewhat arbitrary or
that's all it can be as a guide, but I think it is arbitrary. I think it is subjective. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be censored myself in any way.
Right.
But I think the parents of kids, usually what we're trying to do is make sure kids don't do stuff that might be detrimental to their little brains.
Okay.
And so I think parents need to take charge of that. And I know it's not always easy to do, but there still needs to be, I still think the ratings are good because they're a suggestion.
Right.
But I don't think it's breaking the law if you don't, follow it.
I mean, there used to be times where I wasn't sold a ticket to go see an R-rated movie because I was 16. That is something where it's a law-ish.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Although I don't know what the police call for selling a minor a movie ticket.
Yeah, right. An R-rated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know if there is a police call number.
Right.
We got plenty of 737s down at the movie theater on 5th or whatever. I don't know.
Right. I think movies needed. No, they didn't necessarily need, but as a matter of fact, when the Hays Code started.
Yeah, you've been a part of that. I've known only the Motion Picture Association ratings that I've dealt with my entire life.
I think it was in 1933, but sometime around there, 33, 31. Somebody in the government decided that movies were way too amoral. And truthfully, they could do and say whatever they felt like. Only there wasn't like naked having sex that is in movies now. But still, it was something that this Hays guy and this little committee decided was just too much. An example, Mae West.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a gun in your pocket or are you happy to see me?
Right.
Was from some movie before the Hays Code.
Right.
After the Hays Code, you couldn't do that. So after like 33 or whenever it was, movies got kind of dull, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, here we go. While the Hays Code authorized a movie for distribution based on whether it was deemed moral according to an exhaustive list of rules, the current movie rating system was born out of the simple notion that the movie industry wouldn't approve or disapprove what audiences should see, but instead would focus on freeing the screen and educating parents to help them make movie-going decisions for their family. This is what is on filmratings.com, a classifications and ratings administration, the CARA.
The sentence was way too long, so it was hard to follow it.
I didn't write it. Okay, current rating system emerged for films in 1968 when the MPAA Jack Valenti.
Yeah, I remember him.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he used to be on TV. I mean, he'd come on like Johnny Carson, Jack Parr show and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it was Johnny Carson by 68, yeah.
Yeah.
He was a good guest. He was a good conversationalist on those shows.
Okay, interesting. I didn't know he was a guest and well-known in that regard.
Yeah.
The idea that something is moral and basing your distribution of that movie on an arbitrary assessment of whether it's moral or not, or maybe an exhaustive list of what is moral or not, is definitely a form of censorship.
Yeah.
You're right. It is a suggestion, but it can be leveraged and used. How these things are classified, it's still censorship. Is it not?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I don't think it's a law.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I don't know what the R ratings. I know there's no X rating anymore. They call it something else. But if it's R rated and somebody 16 tries to get in, I have a feeling that if they brought a lawyer with them, the theater would have to let them in. It's, quote, against the law, but I think it's not anything that would be punishable.
So when you think of NATO, what do you think of?
NATO?
Yeah.
North Atlantic Treaty Association?
Well, okay. That's actually NATA, but okay. Organization, yeah. So I'm reading this document I found at the Film Ratings website.
Okay.
Apparently NATO is the National Association of Theater Owners.
Oh, okay.
That would be funny if NATO is deciding the fate of the movies that we are watching. Right.
The French and Italians are probably arguing about all the censorship. They want Scandinavian movies. Oh yeah. Let's get more.
Yeah, I was going more like, oh no, we definitely need more war movies.
Oh yeah, right. Anti-war movies.
Maybe anti-war movies are better. There is a whole process involving appeals and classifications that look like it was updated July 24th, 2020.
Oh.
Looks like they're serious about what they're doing. X no longer exists. It's NC-17 now is the... I'm sorry?
Oh, I'm laughing because 17?
Yeah.
Is that like referring to an age?
Yes. No one 17 and under admitted. So NC-17 is just adults.
Okay.
So once you reach 18, you can see an NC-17 movie.
Oh, interesting.
But according to that, it's no one under 17 admitted, whereas under 17 for the R requires accompanying parent or adult guardian. There's no law per se, but the Motion Pictures and Movie Theater Association it looks like it has this agreement.
The agreement with the NATO.
Right. Well, NATO is the theater owners. So they and the Motion Picture Association have this agreement that says that we will do this or not do this. And I could see where a rating, and I've heard many stories about movies historically that they want to get a certain rating to boost numbers. They want, right. And so there are certain movies, if you put too much profanity in there, if you put too much sex or alluding to sex.
And violence.
Yeah, and violence too. One of my favorite movies called Galaxy Quest had to remove some of its content. And I've seen, are you familiar with Galaxy Quest?
Of course not.
Okay. It is a wonderful movie that you need to see. You've got Tony Shalhoub, Sam Rockwell, Tim Allen, Alan Rickman, Sigourney Weaver, Rainn Wilson.
Wow.
It's got a really great cast. The whole movie revolves around, it's not a parody of Star Trek, and you don't need to know Star Trek to watch it.
Oh, okay.
There is a crew of people who did a Star Trek-like TV show back so many years ago, and they have a dedicated following of fans. And you've got your captain, who's played by Tim Allen, who's like, the leader. And
really?
Tim Allen, yeah.
Alan Rickman?
No, no. No, Alan Rickman plays the Spock equivalent. Where
okay.
It's hilarious
I see that.
where he's like, I played in Richard III. what the hell am I doing here?
Right.
So comedically, he's in the perfect spot that he needs to be, right? But Tim Allen plays the captain, and each one has their different role on the crew in the television show, but then something happens and they end up going on an adventure.
Oh, it sounds familiar, actually.
It is such a great movie, and it's got great moments and funny. That movie specifically, there are things that were in that movie before that would have gotten it an R rating, which would severely have limited their audience.
Right.
One of the things you can see, they dubbed it poorly, but Sigourney Weaver has a line in there filmed. You can see it. She says, "Fuck that." But she says something else in the movie itself. I mean, it's like you see that there's film.
A voiceover.
Fuck that. Right. It was voiceover with her. Then also one of the characters was portrayed more as a stoner kind of character, and they had to take him out or things around that because it would have gotten them a rating. So it's a subtle form of censorship. Because
it is.
You don't get to release the film in the way that you think you should. RoboCop, also another instance where in order to not get the X rating and get an R rating instead, they had to do some things to the movie that kind of made it a little more scary than it actually was. There's a scene where one of the characters is getting shot, like riddled with bullets. And it lasted minutes, like this guy getting shot and shot and shot. And they showed the person, getting shot, and it looked campy. It looked ridiculous because it was like fake blood and all that stuff, right? It didn't look realistic at all, but they were told that they needed to change that and cut it down. And so how they changed it made it seem a lot more scary if you thought about it, because instead of seeing the guy being shot up and all the fake blood and squibs and whatnot going off, you saw the shocked faces of the people who were in the room when that was happening. And it kind of gave it more. It made it scary because it put it all in your head. You had to envision.
Right.
Just two instances of how things can be censored based on that whole thing. Although now I don't think anyone really cares. Do you think people care about ratings anymore as far as movies are concerned?
For the most part, no, except for little like 5-year-olds or something.
Yeah.
Or 7-year-olds. That's up to the parents.
I think it's gone back to putting it on the shoulders of the parents because everything is so accessible now. So it's like, instead of having to try and police it themselves.
Right. Let the computer do it.
Or block. But I mean, like anything else, there are going to be ways. Rating things. There's also people rate on a scale. Arbitrary, I guess. 1 to 5. You are in the neck of the woods of the Siskel and the Ebert.
Oh, yeah.
They're one of the most well-known, I think, people who would rate movies. When do you remember watching or seeing or reading about a rating that some person was ranking the quality or the value based on what they like on a star scale or whatever?
I remember watching Siskel and Ebert on TV.
Right.
Because it's Chicago. And so we probably had them doing ratings long before the rest of the country did.
Yeah. Do you remember the theme song?
No.
I do. It's in my head.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you can stop.
Okay.
You can stop. I got it. Earworms forever.
I know.
But yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
But they only had two ratings.
Thumbs up and thumbs down.
Thumbs down. Yep.
Yep.
And
no, honestly, that's a good way. Would recommend, would not recommend. I mean, I think that's a simple way to do it.
Yeah.
Now they do stars, and I think what they did in their writing was stars. I know on the show they did thumbs up and thumbs down.
Right. Because they worked for newspapers.
Right.
Chicago Tribune and
the
maybe
Sun-Times.
the Sun-Times.
Yep. Ebert was Tribune and Siskel was Sun-Times. But
when they were writing for the newspaper, thumbs up and thumbs down didn't do much.
Right.
I'm sure they had to have something else, like it was 5 stars or something.
A scale. Yeah, but I remember thumbs up, thumbs down being the thing that their shtick is.
Yes.
They would tell you why they gave it a thumbs up or thumbs down, what they thought about it. More often than not, they disagreed. Right. But I mean, it was interesting to see two people talking about the reasons why.
Yeah.
That's where it was interesting. Do I care about why Siskel gives it a thumbs up if I'm looking at just Siskel or I'm looking at just Ebert? I don't care either one. When two people are sort of debating, that is where it's interesting.
Right. And they did debate.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where ratings and rankings is more interesting, is when you have two different sides. One person who likes it and why they like it, and one person who doesn't and why they don't. I would much rather watch that or read that than something where a person says, this is garbage. Okay, it's all so subjective.
Even watching two people discuss it.
Yeah.
It's
still
their
subjective.
Opinions.
Right.
Yeah.
What about restaurants? Do you rate things?
No. But there are, of course, rated restaurants with very specific
Michelin star rating.
One of them.
Yeah.
One of them is Michelin.
I always thought, what do tires have to do with restaurants was always my thought.
You don't know?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. Well, then I can tell you all about it.
Oh, really?
When Michelin tires started in the early 1900s, like maybe the teens or something, they had their Marshmallow Man. I know he's supposed to be a tire, but a bunch of tires. And they wanted people to drive. The automobile was just coming into popularity. So what they did was they started finding restaurants here and there, popular places I would think would start, and they'd find these restaurants and they'd rate them and put them. There was a book, and it was the Michelin Tire book of restaurants, so that people could go, if we're going to go to New Hampshire or whatever, we need to go to this restaurant because the Michelin guy gave it 2 stars. By the way, they only have 3 stars. 1 star is very good.
Oh, okay. Opposite, right.
No, 3 stars is tremendous.
Oh.
But if you get 1 Michelin star, it's wonderful. Just 1 star. If you don't get 1, that's when you might feel left out. But maybe the Michelin guys didn't come to your restaurant. So anyway, it was started by the tire company to get people to travel to restaurants.
Interesting.
And now it's one of the most well-known rating systems. Yeah.
Very prestigious.
They also have one called Bib Gourmand.
Yes.
It's by Michelin. Oh, you know that one. Maybe not.
I looked at the site. Since 1955, the guide has also highlighted restaurants offering exceptionally good food at moderate prices.
Yes.
A feature now called Bib Gourmand.
Yeah, that's that's one I didn't know. To me, it was all high-class places that I couldn't afford anyway.
Right. When I think Michelin and I think cars, I think the concept of the Bib Gourmand. That's what I think of. I don't think of, like
right.
fancy schmancy, the pretentious sort of.
Right, pretentious. That's a good one.
Yeah.
But, back in the teens, that might not have been the case so much as now. But if somebody has Michelin stars, it would be nice to go there.
Yeah.
So.
Wouldn't you rather just be the person who goes around and eats at all the fancy restaurants?
Oh, yeah. I sure would.
I mean,
would I have to write about them then or something?
Yeah, I think that might be one of the things you have to do. You've got to write other rating systems before we get into our brief discussion about video games.
The big thing is Consumer Reports.
Oh, yes.
They rate. And if you look at, if you're looking for a washing machine, let's say, they have a lot of machines they rate. They have very specific reasons they rate them for, and it's all in big charts that you can look at. So they're very specific about their what they're rating something for.
Yes. They tell you specifically what they're...
That's the big charts. Yeah, right. They don't have A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3. They just tell you this is if you're looking for the best for the money, this is the order. Yeah. If you're looking for the best, this is the order. Right. But it's definitely a good rating. I think so.
A good rating, you mean good rating system?
Yes. Well, it's something a lot of people go to and believe in.
Oh, yeah.
Schools are rated. Mm-hmm. Like there's a 4-star school. Right. Or there's, the state has to give you that. Also, think about it. Grades.
Yes.
Grades are a rating.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but that's even sometimes subjective.
It can be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Depending on the subject, I think, too.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Because I'm thinking of like math and science. Well, math particularly not as subjective.
No, but things like creative writing, art, those things are very subjective and can't be anything but.
Right. So, and then the people try and rate books, but we've been through that. It's like movies. Mm-hmm. Let the parents don't want somebody to read a book, if they think it's bad, they're the ones who should stop it. But they do have various rating systems for books, different ways, different.
Right. Goodreads also has a sort of. Yeah.
And Amazon has a good system.
Yeah.
Well, good. I say it's. I don't know if it's good or not, but.
Yeah. What does good mean?
It gives you. Yeah. Exactly.
Do you want to rate the rating systems from?
Hey, there's an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one is ranked higher than this one because...
Like Neilson Ratings. Oh, that's another one.
You know what? I was just about to say that. Yeah. Did you want to talk about Neilson Ratings? But that's another one that involved chosen families.
Right. So unless you were chosen, your input wasn't given.
Right. And many a TV show was canceled that shouldn't have been canceled, I think.
Yes, they did depend on those.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. There was another one, not just Nielsen, SRA or something like that, that unless you were in the business, you wouldn't know. But it was like the Nielsen ratings. Mm-hmm. You looked for demographics, how many people watched, what the ages were,
Right.
And that was my first job in advertising, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a matter of how many people watched it.
Right.
But people even fooled them because they'd leave their television on and go out.
Yeah, you can game the system.
Yeah, exactly.
You can either game the system or accidentally game the system. Right. I don't know.
Right. Well,
very arbitrary, too.
Yeah.
Did you watch? Did you not watch? How long?
And the sample, like you had mentioned, the sample population was somewhat arbitrary.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure how they picked families, but they certainly left a lot out.
I Love Lucy. That was pretty high from 1952 to 1955.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was the highest, actually. And then for 1 year, the $64,000 question, which I don't know what that means. Like,
yeah,
the $64,000 question is, are ratings good? Go. Interesting. Another thing about today's day and age, that the rating has shifted towards basically people. You've got Metacritic. They take a whole bunch of ratings of and combine it into an aggregate sort of, like an average. You've got a spot that's for people who are just playing the games or watching the movies and their ratings. And then a spot for all the people who do publications, like your IGN or GameSpot or any of the Rotten Tomatoes. That's another one who kind of combines.
I was going to mention it. That's what I thought it was. That's kind of like how many people say they like something.
Right.
Or something to that effect anyway.
Yeah.
Accumulation of opinions.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to things, it's like, I may use that as a, hey, I better check this out. But it's not a, hey, I'm going to buy this. I've seen a lot of things where a game is ranked a certain way from reporters or people who are paid to do this.
Yes.
And then you've got people who are fans rated a different way, or video game players There's some interesting sort of things as far as that is concerned with movies too, with your Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb or any of those. But on a scale of 1 to boring, how do you think our discussion of ratings was?
I think you have a job editing.
Well, that's always the case.
No, I meant that isn't what I meant. I think some of the things were, well, like the definition.
Right.
1 to boredom? So that means 1's high?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Just say 1 and we'll move on.
4.
No.
All right, 1.
Excellent.
It's subjective, remember.
It is subjective.
Yeah, right.
So video games, have you ever read any video game rankings? I know that right now you have been playing Grim Fandango.
Yeah.
Which is a game from back in my day.
Yeah.
What are you thinking about that game as far as rating it so far? What is your rating of that on a scale from 1 to 10?
Are we talking about playability? Are we talking about interest?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's all up to the reviewer, right?
I haven't played enough of it to really give an honest rating.
That was more my point, was kind of, have you completed it? Sort of thing.
And I have not.
Right.
So
I get the impression sometimes reading people's reviews of games after I've played it, sometimes it's like I get the impression that they didn't play through the entire game, and it's like you're on a deadline. And then I got to thinking, how many people do that for other forms of media? But video games seems specific because it requires a nebulous time commitment depending on which game you're playing.
That's what I was going to say. Probably much longer than watching a movie.
Definitely much longer than watching a movie, or about the same as reading a book. I don't know. Maybe it could be a little longer than reading a book.
It could be a little longer. It depends on the book, yeah.
But I mean, usually with the book, it's like you have to read the book in order to rank it, or rate it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Do you ever get the impression by reading? I don't think you read people's ratings, right?
No, I do. First of all, it depends. Is it a newspaper or a professional doing it? I don't necessarily agree with them, but they might pique my interest for something. But I don't. I mean, they definitely can have a different opinion than me. Mm-hmm. That's for sure. And I mean, and that happens like you were talking about before with movies, where somebody might a critic might pan a movie, but they have so many fans.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I read reviews of lots of things, but a grain of salt kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. And sometimes you know the reviewer. I mean, not personally know them, but you've read before and you get an idea of how they, and how that compares to what you think. Yeah. I'd be lying if I didn't say that I have watched a movie because a certain person has given it a poor rating. That would be lying if I said I'd never done that. But there are certain people that I've kind of like read their reviews, and I know if they don't like it, I'm going to like it. Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe that's an indicator that I've read too many reviews of something. But if you read a body of their work, you kind of, that's another thing. Right. If you know what they like and what they are critical of, but do you have time to read all of their reviews is the question. I would think it would be over a long period of time. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Get the idea. So, and some of these things where you see like on a Kotaku or whatever, it's just some person who writes in and says, "Oh, here's my rating," and it's like, "Oh, how many things did they write? Oh, 2." Yeah, exactly. So I don't know what this person thinks of. There's like rating a game based on what you like, but then also there's the rating of a game very similar to what we were talking about with the Hays Code and then later. Are you familiar with the ESRB? Only that you've mentioned it, but I have not looked it up or anything. Yeah. The ESRB stands for the Entertainment Software Ratings Board. Okay. They rate games similarly to the way you've got things set up for movies.
They've got an E for everyone. They've got everyone 10 plus.
Okay.
Which is content generally suitable for ages 10 and up.
Yeah.
But it may contain mild fantasy violence, mild language.
Oh, yeah.
Right. T for teen, suitable for 13 and up. Mature, which is 17 and older. And the kiss of death, which is adults only, 18 and up.
Oh.
What people in the gaming industry call the kiss of death. If it gets ranked that, you got no,
because
established in 1994 by the Entertainment Software Association, formerly the Interactive Digital Software Association, the IDSA, in response to criticism of controversial video games with excessive or violent sexual content, particularly after the 1993 congressional hearings. There is a link to C-SPAN. You can look it up online if you just type in Mortal Kombat.
Okay.
Because apparently Congress doesn't talk too much about Mortal Kombat, usually, in day-to-day business.
True.
December 9th, 1993, the video game violence sort of thing where they talked about a couple of games. If you look at them and compare them to today's games, it's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever seen, there is an Atari 2600 porn game company that came about towards the end of the life of, but it's ridiculous. It's like, you look at it and go, okay, that's a porn game. One of the games that was a part of this discussion about violence against women, or just violence in general, everyone knows Mortal Kombat, I think. Up until that point, there wasn't really a rating system in place. And when there was talk of this congressional hearing, that's when your entertainment software companies started thinking about this.
Yeah.
A similar system to movies, which before didn't exist. Arcades.
Right.
I don't remember any pornographic arcade games. Well, I do remember one, but they didn't have it in normal arcades. But anyway.
Yeah. Oh.
They did have it at truck stops, let me tell you that. Up until that point, you had games, and I don't remember ever seeing anything pornographic or excessively violent. Maybe I didn't put two and two together with the way the graphics were.
Yeah.
At a certain point, when the graphics became of a certain quality, that's when there started to be concern about violence being depicted, because there was a component that was realistic.
Oh, okay.
When you incorporate your realism into a video game is when the conversations about violence start, I think.
Yeah.
Before that, Donkey Kong throwing a barrel onto Mario and squashing him.
Right.
That's violent. It's really violent.
Well, yeah, so's the Roadrunner and his, all that stuff,
Exactly. Which also, television is rated like that in these days, too.
Yeah.
One of the games that was talked about in this congressional hearing was a game called Night Trap. You are a player on the end of a camera system.
Okay.
And you have access to different video cameras. And you are a member of the Sega Control Attack Team.
Okay.
With the acronym SCAT.
Okay.
Yeah. That should have been the big clue that they had no friggin' idea what was going on, is the fact that they let that one slide.
Right.
You're a member of the Special Control Attack Team, is what it was called in later releases where it wasn't released on the Sega, but it was Sega originally. You're given the explanation that there have been disappearances of teenage girls who were last seen at a winery estate from the Martin family, which consisted of Victor, his wife Sheila, their children Jeff and Sarah, cousin Tony. Missing girls were invited to stay for the night, and then they would disappear.
Right.
When police, for some reason, could get the job done, and the police were like, "Oh, the girls left safely," but then
I do remember watching.
Okay.
Watching something to that effect.
Yeah.
Yes.
But they didn't let the police search the property, of course, because,
Right.
Then the police handed the case over to SCAT.
Oh. Is that like bear scat or, wolf scat?
Right, exactly. This is another one of those things where it's video game sort of logic. So what they did when case was handed over to SCAT, I thought they put the traps and the security cameras in there, but apparently they were already there.
Oh.
So they investigated the house and discovered a series of traps and security cameras.
Oh, okay.
And an operational unit in the basement to control the apparatus. So what you are doing, you take over their system so you can watch the video cameras and activate the traps, but only if you have the proper code. So anyway,
of course.
Essentially what you're doing is you're watching these teenage girls, one of which an operative that was placed amongst them, who is played by Dana Plato.
Oh, yeah.
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 Formerly of Different Strokes.
Yes. Yeah.
At a point in her career where she was trying to build back up her,
Right.
She had some child star problems, but then this is her first sort of getting back into...
Coming back.
She was the operative, and she's the only one who knows that the cameras are there. So she would break the fourth wall a lot with you if anything needed to be done. But the other girls in there were not aware of the cameras. And the house has the traps in there because the family is a family of vampires.
Had to be something, yeah.
Right. But the house has this group of invaders called augurs, which are vampires who need blood to survive, but aren't aware. They're more like zombie vampires, essentially.
Okay.
They're zombie vampires that can operate technical things, I guess, because they have this weird claw-like thing that they can put around someone's neck and extract their blood. So I don't know which augur created that. But essentially, the family of vampires is sort of different from the augurs. They've got to keep the augurs at bay, so they've got the house that has the traps, so they can trap them or whatever. What the family does is they invite, spoiler alert, what the family does is they invite these groups of girls, because who else would want to go to a winery but underage teenage girls? I mean, that's another big plot hole right there that I just realized. You're inviting high school girls to a winery? Really?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
As teenage girls do, they're treating it like a slumber party. But then, of course, these augurs are after them. They don't know what's going on. Not only are the augurs after them, but the family members are trying to get their blood. So what you end up doing is you're trying to trap all these augurs so they don't kill off the girls or the family members, so then you can send all the family members to jail for harvesting the girls previously for their blood or whatever.
Right.
It is a really weird, convoluted story.
And this is something that Congress felt needed to be improved or what?
What they thought was it was violence against women.
Oh, okay.
But it wasn't any more violent than any of your B-grade horror slasher movies. It was nothing like those.
Yeah.
It was a concept that the concept itself was more originally.
Yeah.
Rob Fulop, who was one of the Atari game developers, established this company, and they were working on and pitching to Hasbro a series of games or technology that would allow you to watch and participate in basically a movie, a sort of a narrative.
Oh, okay.
And they had a little mock-up that was sort of a Clue-like thing where you had to solve a mystery.
Yeah.
And it was also similarly, you had this set where it was different rooms, and you would be able to see things that happened in those rooms. And then eventually you would get to a point where you could accuse whoever the murderer was, or, unmask the murderer. This game concept was inspired by an actual play, the play Tamara in 1981, which was a play that ran 13 different parallel storylines in 13 different rooms. And the audience would need to decide which stories they wanted to follow by going from room to room, which seems like, one, it seems complicated, overly complicated, but also it depends on the way it is. It's like, if the audience is deciding, then the cast needs to change the room, the stage and the thing, right? It's like you've got 13. Yeah. So think of 13 storylines moving along simultaneously, but each in a different room. But then your play audience, I don't know if they are allowed to freely move about.
Yeah,
or if they make a decision as an audience and then they move to whatever room is the one that they move to.
I would say 13 storylines is too much to make decisions about.
Oh, agreed. I agree.
Yeah,
I entirely agree. But I mean, that was kind of the inspiration, right? Was that kind of thing where you could look at what's going on in different rooms of a house and kind of figure out.
Yeah.
The prototype game was Scene of the Crime. There was a 5-minute demo that they gave to the people who were in Hasbro. And then in 1986, the team flew out to Hasbro and pitched the technology piece. They liked the system and gave funding to further development of the technology in games for that. This was in 1986. So then they began to work on a more comprehensive game that was an engaging experience.
Okay.
The company itself originally had a plan for an interactive movie based on A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Jeez.
But then they said no. Duh.
Yeah.
Hasbro doesn't want to do A Nightmare on Elm Street. But I mean, you could see where they were kind of going to maybe end up, right?
Yeah. Wow.
So what they did with the Night Trap game, they kept on getting notes about how things would be too violent. Like, one of the things that they said initial idea was to take the scene of a crime to an extreme with a billionaire leaving an extremely large sum of money in a house to someone, and it's guarded by a state-of-the-art sort of system. Billionaire's daughter is staying at the house with her teenage friends when the house is attacked by ninja burglars who are attempting to steal the money. That was the original concept, right?
Oh, okay.
So that concept morphed into the concept I told you about earlier, where you had the vampires.
Oh, jeez.
So the vampire concept, the reason they developed there's a weird sort of collar thing that extracts the blood of the victims, right?
Right.
Which is the thing that the Congress people seem to be appalled with.
Jeez.
But the reason they put that in there as such a ridiculous device is because they couldn't have reproducible violence in the game, according to Hasbro. It had to be something that was so ridiculous that no one could possibly.
Right.
And so the very thing that was so ridiculous that no one could possibly reproduce is what Congress clued in on as being violent against women. Now, I mean, if that doesn't say something about how out of touch Congress is, I have no idea what does.
Yeah.
But let's not get into a political discussion. Let's just say,
I know. Because I could.
Okay. And you can see videos of it. There was a re-release of the game that came out. That was a 25th anniversary sort of version of this game, which you can get on Steam. It includes a very interesting sort of documentary about the making of the game, and along with the principal designer and the whole history that I told you. You can see it on YouTube, or you can buy the game and see it. But it's very interesting how a concept that seemed like it could be a fun game to play,
right,
that wouldn't be a big deal in today's day and age,
right,
became this thing that prompted the creation of the ESRB, which should have probably been done in the first place, honestly, when games started getting that way, and people seem to be trying to push the envelope. Since the creation of the ESRB, it's like you get to a point where you're trying to, okay, let's push the envelope a little bit.
Right.
And social norms and things change.
That's what I was thinking. I mean,
the game Night Trap was finally rated as MA for mature, but I think the rating on it for the re-release was T for teen. But anyway.
Okay. Yeah. I could see that.
So a video game that relies a lot upon movie sort of footage. I mean, in the game itself, by today's standards, wasn't fun to play. But by those standards back in the day, it was something brand new. Eventually, Hasbro sort of dropped the whole idea of creating their own system, and Sega picked up the idea. And then it was ported to other CD game systems. It was released in 2017 and 2018 for its 25th anniversary. It's been cited as one of the worst video games of all time, but that is a rating system where people say it's the worst of all time. That's a ranking, right? It's the difference between a ranking and a rating. But, But I mean, that's all very subjective. And you're not taking history into account when you rank a lot of times.
Right. Yeah.
When also, as illustrated by Night Trap, it was something that was ruined. Also, this is, I thought, was a very interesting sort of thing. It was a concept that could have made a very good game, but was ruined by a couple of things that were just suggestions. I mean, you could have alluded to a lot of these things.
Yeah.
You know, like with the vampire or with the thing with the blood extraction device.
Yeah.
It's like they would show that on screen because it's ridiculous and it couldn't possibly create something that would do that.
Yeah.
It was the reason why it was violence.
Wow.
Yeah. Also, check out, if you like and are interested in politics or the way our government works when it comes to certain things like this.
Yeah.
This is a very interesting video to watch on C-SPAN where you can definitely see how elected officials are making decisions about things that they don't understand.
Right.
I think that Congress definitely was having this hearing for the right reasons. But when you don't understand something and you have that hearing, what is the value of it?
Yeah.
I could tell you none of them played that game. It was a piece that was taken out of context. All these illustrations of making a judgment on something that you don't have the full picture.
I think that happens more often than it should.
Oh, yeah.
And still does. Yeah.
In every kind of rating that you can think of, it might.
Yeah.
As far as something subjective like a movie or a piece of audio, or it's all based on personal taste. But as far as who should and shouldn't watch something, maybe just having it as a standard. It's a guide, and I don't think it's enforced.
Right.
I think early on they tried to. GameStop wouldn't sell you something.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, selling.
But now anyone can go online and buy a game.
Well, all they have to do is check the little box that says, I'm over 18 or whatever.
Right. And use their parents' credit card or... Yeah. And let me just say also that game systems in general, they do have things that will, based on your ESRB rating, allow or disallow you to access that game. But you have to, as a parent, set that up through console. When you came over, I was half tempted to set that up just to see just to see how it would work when you tried to play a game that was violent.
Yeah.
Your final thoughts on ratings? I think
they're all subjective, no matter how specific you get on the information you're using.
Right.
But I still think they can be used as a guide, but parents should be aware. If we're talking about rating games or movies or TV or even books, parents should be aware and have something to do with how to use the ratings.
Oh, yeah. In the end, they are who should be making the decision. Thumbs up, thumbs down. which Dad made several decisions that my mom wouldn't make as far as movies were concerned that he would let us watch.
Oh, yeah.
But Mom wouldn't. I think that a lot of that is up to the parent to make that decision anyway. And as long as there are tools, I think the ESRB and the rating system is a tool. Does it replace you as a parent watching or playing? Not exactly, but it is a guide that you can use to make that decision if you don't have the time to do so.
Right. Now, there is a problem. There is one problem with parents being in charge, kind of, not in charge, but helping, is that there are a lot of kids out there who basically have half a parent. Like they're a single family,
right?
But their parent is gone most of the time.
Yeah.
So it's, there's situations where, we all think, well, our parents wouldn't do that. But there are kids that don't have much in the way of parents.
Right.
Or they have parents who don't give a shit,
Yeah.
So that's another program.
Yeah. That's a different problem.
Yeah.
Bad parenting. I've met some wonderfully balanced people who have had horrible upbringings.
Yes.
I've met some really amazing people that have had a lot of problems with their parents being abusive or doing these things. So
yeah.
So I mean, I don't know if it depends on the individual. You can have, it's kind of a crapshoot. I mean, someone who's making their own determinations may turn out great. They may not turn out well. Parents' involvement. I mean, if I was a parent to anything other than 2 cats,
right.
I would want to be involved in my child's life as they were raised. And this is not to draw any comparisons to the way I was brought up at all.
Yeah.
I would want to raise them to be kind and understanding of other people's point of views. And if that meant my 13-year-old watching an R-rated movie that I think makes a good point, well, then that's my decision to make, and I'm going to make that decision. But still, it's up to me as a parent. And we're going to have good parents and bad parents.
Right.
And are the bad parents?
Yeah, that's, like I said, another show.
Right. Ratings shouldn't be your substitute parent. They should only be used as a guide.
Yes.
Anyway.
That's what I think.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Well, basically, I said, yeah, right. A lot. That's what you agree with. Okay.
I agree with your affirmative.
Yeah.
Thank you, Norah, for joining us on the show today, talking about the word rating. Once again, a word that you don't think really. Anyway.
Oh, am I supposed to add something there? Okay.
I don't know. Maybe not.
A word that is subjective.
Yes, is subjective. Make your own decision.
Right. As long as you have a brain.
Oh, yes.
Oops, that's another show. Another
show too. Yeah. Before you meet the wizard.
Yes.
Yes. I don't want the scarecrow making decisions about what games and what movies my child watches.
Right.
But anyway.
Right.
Again with the tangents. Kind of late with the tangents this time.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you, Norah, for joining us on this week's episode. My name is Ben.
I'm Norah.
And we've been your hosts. Have a wonderful night. Bye.
Bye.